Hello all, and it's been a long time, which happens because I just don't do anything. But I'm sure many of you were probably, though I'm sure most of you that are watching this already know, but I will just say this anyways. The Revolution review that I'm sure many of you were wondering if it was going to happen did happen, just didn't happen on this channel. I did it on Doug's channel with Steven and Doug. They asked me, so I was like, sure. And so a lot of that. And of course, I last time I was on here, I guess talked about the Ring of Honor sale. And we know a little bit more about that, but that's not why I'm here. Next week will be WrestleMania weekend. I'm not going, but I thought I would talk about it. We're still about a week out, so it's fair to talk about. Even though we still don't have, I don't. A lot of stuff still hasn't been announced, but I do plan on watching a lot of stuff, which is not something that I'm definitely haven't done the last 2 years, of course. But even I would say 3 years ago, I didn't watch, but I would consider a ton of stuff. There's definitely a lot of stuff I want to see this weekend, as opposed to a lot of other weekends. So I thought I would just kind of go over that. And that doesn't even include Dynamite and Rampage. When we're talking about all this, I do think that the people there, in some regards, I think for the first time, I think being at being there, being at WrestleMania weekend, you definitely have to be a little bit more selective of which shows you go to. Um, that hasn't always been the case when you're watching at home. You can get it's often been a lot easier to pick and choose what you're going to see. This is the first time I think that even the people at home are going to have choices, and Rampage and Dynamite are a big part of that as well. So, anyways, I guess we'll get started, and I'll just go down the list of stuff that we have. I guess Wednesday. I guess there's nothing really happening on Wednesday, so Rampage is Rampage. I will say this, and when we get to the Ring of Honor, our Super Show, I'll talk about this more. But I do think, and I always say this, and I get the argument that Tony Khan puts out. I do think if there's a way, and this, let me preface this by they have to be able to find a building to do this in. I do think they should run the Rampage, Dynamite Rampage, Dynamite live, and then a Rampage taping live at WrestleMania weekend. I know a lot of people are like, they're piggybacking on all this. That is the wrong way to look at it, in my opinion. To me, this is very much, you do it for a fan service reason, if you can get a building big enough to do it. Especially this year, when WrestleMania was announced, you had which fans were actually going to be able to come in from out of the country. That was a lot of up there. It's still up in the air, to be quite honest. But it, in the last month, it became a lot easier. Not that people would be able to come because they weren't planning on coming, but you never know. But next year in LA, I do expect us to see the normal, the pro wrestling world descending upon, LA. That said, because you have so many diehards, you have so many people that basically wouldn't normally even have the chance to go to a Dynamite or a Rampage, if you can find a big enough building to do it in, and that's the thing, you have to be able to find, I think, a large, something more than, I would say, 10 to 12,000 people. I see no reason not to do it. Only because and you preface it by saying you're going to the fans. You're allowing fans that normally might not be able to see the show live being able to see the show live. I think that's important. I don't expect Tony Khan to ever do that, but that's my opinion on it. I get the idea of you don't want to look second rate and you don't want to look like you are piggybacking. And I think if the way around that is you're not piggybacking, you're going to where the fans are. You're going to, this is arguably the biggest meeting of the wrestling community internationally normally, and you're going to those fans, so the fans that don't normally get the chance to see one of these shows are able to see one of these shows. That's my take on it. A lot of people will think I'm wrong, but that's the way I see it. Tony Khan doesn't agree with that, and I completely understand. But that's the way I see it. A lot of people are okay with it. I also understand it. I understand not wanting to look like you are piggybacking on WWE because that looks bad to some people, but it is what it is. But anyways, let's kind of get started. So Wednesday, and of course our Thursday, and of course these showtimes are going to be all weird because you have 2 nights of WrestleMania, which kind of screws everything up. It's funny that I think that a lot of people aren't talking about this, but to me, one of the things WWE always wanted to do was, of course, hurt the indie presence at WrestleMania weekend. Them doing 2 WrestleMania shows, 2 days, I think does more to that than anything else ever has. The fact that they can do that, I would have, if NXT was stronger, I would have ran NXT. You know, what? Could you run it on Thursday? I mean, you could have ran it on Thursday, but I guess they probably, yeah, I guess that it probably is the best time for it. But because you didn't have SmackDown's going to take a big hit, more than the Hall of Fame is ever going to. So I think what they have now, and even if NXT was the way it was, we saw that in it. But this is WrestleMania. This is we're going to have 50,000 plus fans. I think the first night's going to have 60, right? So that makes a dent. You can't even run against it. Where you can run against SmackDown, you could run against one of the takeovers back in the day. So there you go. And I think you kind of see that with kind of the scheduling and everything here. But let's get started. First thing you're going to have is Glory Pro putting on their Cemetery Gates. This is part of the collective. I will be honest, I'm not ordering the collective bundle. There's a reason. I will get to that when I get to that show, because that was the show that hinged on it. But right now, I'm going to order the stuff that I'm going to. This is not one of them that I'm going to order. There's nothing on here that really just jumps out at me, even though it does have Davey Richards on it, and normally that's like, hey, I would buy that. But this is just not. So far from what I've seen on the card just doesn't. At 11 a.m., I got better things I can do. Now at 3 p.m., which would be what? Is that 3 p.m. there? I don't know. But you have Josh Barnett's Bloodsport. I will definitely be watching this. I've seen every single Bloodsport. Pretty much enjoyed every single Bloodsport. I'm kind of on this card, I'll be honest. But I do think it'll probably wind up being good. I enjoy the whole thing about Bloodsport. So I do wish there were better people. But there's not, especially I think you could have done better people, but who knows. But yeah, and this would be a show that if I was there, I would go to. So, as well. But this is definitely one I will be watching, and we'll be watching live as well. So, there we go. Then you have the, if Bloodsport, and Bloodsport usually is over within, 3 hours, or 2 hours. So, if Bloodsport was over in time, the next one would be the AAA Invades WrestleCon. This looks like a really good show. I think this is probably one of the better shows, especially if you like Lucha Libre and you understand Lucha Libre. This is one of the better shows I feel on the whole weekend. Wouldn't say the best, but probably one of the better shows. Really just, I think this will be interesting and fun and all of that. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to this, especially if you're having Black Taurus versus Psycho Clown, which should be really good, and Laredo Kid versus Bandito versus Flamita. That should be insane. This is just going to be I think a lot of just fun. Happening at the same time is Insane Hardcore Wrestling. Again, nothing on this show that really does anything for me. It's not streaming anywhere, so I don't have to worry about yeah. And then you have Iconics House Wrestling, which is at 7. There's better stuff happening at 7. You have the MLW Intimidation Games. And as much as I would love to see, even if I was there, I would be skipping this. You have the ROW and WCPW Texas Showdown. This is the first night of the Texas Showdown shows. You can get this on bundle. I should talk about other bundle too, huh? I've heard a lot of people say that know a lot of this, that it looks like it's going to be fun, and it's a good deal. Um, it's nothing I think I would watch, so I kind of skipped out, and so this is something I would be skipping out on. The AAA show is part of the Fight Fest bundle. That bundle, I will tell you right now, is a good deal. Even if you take out what the two basically live podcasts, I think is what they are. Even if you take those out, because I kind of looked at everything I would want to watch in this bundle, I still came up at $5, and then they're going to give you $7 credit right now on top of that. So yeah, and so that's basically giving you an additional $7. Yeah, I jumped at that, and it ends up being like 75 or something dollars like that. It's good stuff. Good stuff. Where were we? Okay, MLW. We're skipping that. Control Your Narrative. Yeah, not going to a Control Your Narrative show, but at 8 o'clock we do have Joey Janela's Spring Break Part 1. I would definitely be going to this show because the Spring Break show, the GCW shows, I don't enjoy necessarily watching them, but I've been to 2 shows now of their. Well, no, I've been to one of their shows, and I really did enjoy it. And it was a show that I think being there live for, I would probably absolutely love, just the party atmosphere. So, and I think it'll be a good show. I don't know if it'll be a great show, but John Moxley versus AJ Gray, I would think would be pretty good. Joey Janela versus X-Pac, I would think would be pretty good if it's not just completely overbooked, which could happen with a Joey Janela match. Alex Colon versus John Wayne Murdoch. If you're into death matches, I think that could be really, really something. I really do. And then probably where the Briscoes will finally drop those titles, or they don't have the titles right now, do they? Do they? Do they have the titles? No, they don't have. No, they don't. They lost them on the pay-per-view. I completely forgot. But the Hate Club versus Second Gear Crew versus the Briscoes, that should be. I would think that should be good. I would imagine with the Second Gear Crew and the Briscoes being in there. So yeah, and then Blake Christian versus AR Fox. I would think that would be pretty good too. I would think. So yes, I would go to this over a show that I think will also be awesome, and I will also be watching. Also part of the Fight Fest bundle, which is the Mark Hitchcock Memorial Show, which is at 9 o'clock, which will have Biff Busick and Minoru Suzuki. We'll have the Briscoes as well versus Homicide and Loki. That should be awesome. Bandito versus Mike Bailey. That should be awesome. Ishii versus Timothy Thatcher. That should be good, I would think, at the minimum. And then Mia Yim versus Athena. I would think that would be really good. Then whatever else they throw on this. This looks like a really good show. It's definitely something I will be watching after I watch the Joey Janela show. So there you go there. And then you have Dark Arts Entertainment, and I wouldn't be going to that. I don't even have a card for that, so yeah. And then you have GCW Planet Death, which is like their death match show, which would be at midnight. I think it's the only midnight show. Yeah. Right now, there's nothing on it that just like jumps out at me, so that's probably not something I would necessarily watch, but you never know. Then you have another part of the collective show, which is GCW versus LA Fights. That's both of like their like farm system promotions, kind of. Really nothing on this show. Really, well, I should say there's 2 matches on this show that kind of jump out. I mean, Cole Roderick versus Kevin Blackwood, and then Nick Wayne versus Marcus Mathers. Those are the only 2 matches that really like jump out at me. Maybe somebody knows some other matches but this is not something I would look forward to going to. But neither is the show that I think that's the only other show. Yeah, the Texas Showdown Night Day 2. This really doesn't look like anything I would want to see either, though it looks interesting. I will say that. Charlie Haas versus Tim Storm, Mysterious Q, who's really good. versus Will Holiday. Gino Melinda versus Chavo Guerrero Jr. And then who else is it? Booker T is supposed to be on this show. Kenny King, I guess, is supposed to be on this show. Jacob Fatu is maybe on this show. So it looks like it could be like interesting. I wouldn't say good though. Then you have at one, Zicky Dice's Trouble in Paradise 2. This is supposed to be, I believe, streaming live on Twitch, so I will probably watch this because I don't think there's really anything else going on at the time. But I would not go to this because I would be going to this next thing, which is MLW Aztec Underground. Azteca Underground. I would go to this. I would go to this in a heartbeat because this is, even though it's not, this is like the closest thing to Lucha Underground I would ever be able to see. And so I would definitely go to this show without question if I was there. Hopefully we get to see it at some point. I'm sure we will. I'm sure it'll be a tape thing. But yeah. And then a show that normally I would go to. And this is the reason why. Because when I did the math, I could make the math work because I don't want to watch this show. So for the bundle, which is for the collective bundle, which is for the culture, I have seen every single one of these shows. I love the idea of these shows. This card is not good. And it kind of sucks because I got other things that I could do. I got other things I could spend my money on. It basically comes down to that. Like if I was there, I would go to the MLW show over this. So yeah, just not, and it's sad, really. It's interesting, and maybe there'll be something good. I mean, Rich Swann versus JTG could be really good, but we'll see. But yeah. Then we have what, Zello Pro, and then another one of the Fight Fest. Again, this is why the Fight Fest is good. The Fight Fest package, I'm telling you, is the New Japan Lone Star Shootout. Chris Dickinson versus Ishii. That should be fun. Jay White versus Mike Bailey. That should be good stuff. Juice Robinson, David Finlay, Kevin Knight, and Daniel Garcia versus Mascara Dorada, Clark Connors, Carl Fredericks, and Yuri Uemura. This is, and then Rin Narita versus Rocky Romero. That should be really good. Killer Cross versus Minoru Suzuki. That could be good. You know, I mean, most people I think would watch this anyways, but yeah, that show looks like fun. Zoa Live, no. And that, let's see, that was at 5. So Texas Style Wrestling. Then we have, so if I went to the New Japan show, I'd probably have to leave early, I would think, because there is the ROH. Well, that's not true. That's not true. I don't know if I would go to this, and I'm gonna say something that will freak people out that have watched this channel for a long time. Right now, there's not a lot on the ROH Super Card of Honor show. This will probably be the last of the Super Card of Honor shows because, of course, like I said at the beginning, Tony Khan is not big on doing shows WrestleMania weekend. I disagree, but that's just me. But I will be watching this show. I do not, if I was there live, I cannot guarantee I would be going to this show. Right now, the card is good. I would not say it's great yet. Even with the Briscoes versus FTR, I would not say it's great yet. We do have Alex Zane versus Swerve, and we have Bandito versus Jonathan Gresham. Those should be really good, maybe great matches, but nothing. We don't know what else is on this show, and that's the problem. So I would not be going to that show. I will be watching it, but I might not have gone to this show, depending on, and we're a week out. You would think they would have announced everything. Of course, this is taking place at the exact same time. This is, you know, so this will be an interesting thing to see, like, who all will be at this show. So, as well, like, are they gonna do AEW talent? Like, what is this show gonna be? We still don't know. Hopefully we find out soon, because we need to find out soon, because I guess there's going to be an ROH Women's Championship match, but we still don't even know like who is going to take, who's going to be the opponent. So yeah, like, I'm just not, Then we're going to have another show that I'm looking forward to watching. Um, though I will probably skip. This will probably be like there's a bunch of shows right here where I think this is where it gets like crazy. Gringo Locos of the World on Lucha. Another show I've been looking forward to this since it was announced. The card's okay. I still think it'll be. It looks like it's going to be a crazy show. I mean, we're getting Psycho Clown versus Dr. Wagner Jr., which should be something crazy. But you also have like Psychosis versus Tony Deppen. You know, so but we'll see. We'll see how this goes. This looks like it could be really, really good. So yeah. Then you have, let's see, DFW All Star Wrestling at 8. SmackDown would not be going to SmackDown. No Peace Underground. New Fear City Murder Mania. Martinez Entertainment Lucha Leyendas. People have said these shows are really good. But it's at 8:30 again. Not something I would. There's other things I would be watching. But this is what would get me on the ROH thing. As ROH is now running a 2-hour show, and Impact actually has a really good show, like really good, like oh my god, good. I'm worried about the booking. I might actually, if I was there live, I might choose this over ROH. Might go to ROH, but I feel bad about and then go to this later. I don't know. This is where it gets in for me because what they have announced for this is really good. Of course, the Briscoes are going to be on this as well, taking on the Good Brothers. I don't have a high hopes for that match, but yeah, Eddie Edwards versus Ishii, I have high hopes for that. Chris Sabin versus Jay White, high hopes for that. Dana Purrazzo versus I don't know who. I would think because I don't think it would be for the ROH World Championship. Could be wrong. Is this where you bring in Lady Apache? Is this where you bring her in and have her do this match? I don't know, but they're having an Ultimate X match. I can't remember who was on there, but that looked really good too. This show looks like if I was there live, I seriously would probably pick this, even though it's like 2 hours later than the ROH show. So yeah, because I don't think you could do both shows. So you might have to do one and then leave early, and I'm not really big into that. So especially since you want to see the main events. So yeah, but given how everything is, maybe FTR and the Briscoes would be on before. Would be early, so then maybe I wouldn't feel so bad leaving, but I don't know. Then you have at midnight, you have Joey Janela's Spring Break 2. I was completely planning on skipping this, not even watching this, because this is the one with the clusterfuck. I hate the clusterfuck. And there was nothing on this show that just I don't want Suzuki versus Effie does nothing for me. Now, Chris Dickinson taking on Matt Cardona, that has been built up really nice. That's really good. And now they're throwing in Missy Hyatt, and I love Missy Hyatt. And that was okay, I'll watch the show. Because I really did want to see Chris Dickinson versus Matt Cardona. So, yeah. There's nothing else really on this show that, Mike Bailey versus PCO, or whatever. I don't know if they've announced anything else since then, but, you know what, Impact Professional Wrestling Federation, NXT Stand and Deliver. Yes, I would not go to that. Apparently, they've sold more tickets than I thought they would sell for this thing. Though I guess we'll find out at some point if they actually sold them, if they were part of package deals, what the deal is with that. But yeah, then we have World Class Pro Wrestling and Reality of Wrestling. Sherry Martel. I can't talk. Women's Classic. I would probably go to this show because this show looks like it could be really good, and it just sounds like a fun show, and there's really nothing else. Oh, I forgot. There is something else I'd want to see. Never mind. I would not be going to this show, unfortunately. that is part of the ROW Texas bundle, but that's probably the only show on that bundle that I would actually want to see. The other show, again, part of the Fight Fest bundle, WrestleCon USA versus the World. This looks really good. A.B. Richards versus Mike Bailey. Anyone? I could do Workhorseman versus Bandito versus Ray and Ray Horace. I could go for that too. Um, Michael Oko versus Rich Swann. I could go for that too. This looks like it's going to be a very, very fun show. Oh yeah, that's one that I forgot that was on the same time. The other matches that Effie's Big Gay Brunch, not my thing. So yeah, and there's really nothing on this show that like. I think I saw the first one of these. I think, and it was fun, but there's just other stuff that I would rather watch. Texas Mania 3, Turning Point, Turmoil Roughhouse, Soar Pro Wrestling. Okay, Mission Pro Wrestling Bangers Only. This is at 3. So this is yeah. So another all women show. I would probably go to this too if I was there. I think I'll have to see. This is part of the collective. But yeah, not this. This show looks, I would say, good maybe, but it's an all women show, and there's enough like Thunder Rosa versus Trish Adora is something that I would like to see. Holly Head versus LuFisto is something that I would like to see. So there's enough stuff on here for me to like want to see. So there you go. Texas Mania 3, Rampage Wrestling, Texas Mania 3. Let's see. This is also Unsanctioned Pro Mulligan. This is part of the Collective 2. Again, nothing on here that I really want to see. This is Manly. I don't think so. Then you have WWE WrestleMania 38 Night 1. No thank you. Like, honestly, somebody get, like, even if you combine these cards, there's not that much. Well, I guess the women would be carrying it, right? Because you would have Charlotte and Ronda from this night. Becky versus Bianca Belair. I mean, Rey Mysterio versus and Dominic versus Miz and Logan Paul. I know that's like a a WrestleMania thing, but Drew McIntyre versus Corbin. Who wants to see that, really? And then the Usos versus Nakamura versus Rick Boogs. Maybe that would be good. I would think those last two matches in particular, you could go, nope. There's another Lucha Maniac show. That looks pretty decent. And then there's a Texas Mania 3. Is this the one? No. And then another Texas Mania 3. Blah, 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 blah. And then you have Sunday, at midnight, Black Label Pro is putting on a show that actually has the Faces of Fear versus the Workhorsemen. That's interesting. Yeah. Jake Something versus PCO, Effie versus Charlie Haas, Blake Christian versus Black Taurus. That could be good. Tom Lawler and Violence is Forever versus, let's see, Matt Mosconi, Kevin Blackwood, and Davey Richards. That could be good. Levy Everett versus Big Beef, and Shaza McKenzie versus Billy Starks. That could be alright. It could be alright. Also another Texas Mania 3 Texas All-Star Wrestling, Global Wrestling Federation at noon 3. Nothing I want to see. WrestleMania Night 2. Again, what's on here that anybody? I mean, Edge versus AJ Styles. Okay. Pat McAfee versus Austin Theory. Johnny Knoxville versus Sami Zayn. That could be your Hollywood match. The women's tag team match. Let's just throw a bunch of women on here. I don't think so. Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns. Of course, that's like the one. That's like that has to be on here. And then what? Rollins and Cody. Like if that was if the matches I talked about were actually on this would be like a really great one night of WrestleMania. But they did 2 nights and they don't have enough stuff for it. So it's like. I guess we got Austin too, but the Austin thing really doesn't no. and then Texas Mania 3, Texas Mania 3, and then yeah, that's it. So yeah, so kind of just went over everything. Of course, like I said, not enough cards. Like I said, the fight package looks really good. I would recommend getting that. Just I'd get no money if you get it, but I'm just telling you that's one that I would recommend everybody getting because it looks really good. Um, the collective, like I said, I did the math for myself. You may be different. I would recommend doing the math and seeing. I think you save like $35 or so if you ordered everything. I can't see every people ordering everything on this show, on these shows, but depending on what you wanted to see, if you add it all up, um, it just didn't make sense for me because the collective show, that collective show was one. Then I would get it, but it's just not something that show doesn't look good, and I'm not getting no. And then the WrestleCon bundle, yeah, it's $75. Definitely worth it, in my opinion, depending on everything you get. Um, so yeah, I would recommend getting that bundle, which kind of surprised me when I started figuring everything out. I was like, oh wow, that's actually really good. Um, and then the other bundle they have is the ROW Texas bundle, which really just didn't hasn't done much for me. But that's WrestleMania weekend, and like I said, that doesn't include Rampage and Dynamite, which I guess Dynamite really wouldn't count, but Rampage will. But like I said, just there's a lot of stuff I actually want to see, which kind of shocked me because that's usually not necessarily the case. But there's a lot of stuff that I actually want to see. So I'm glad that I have the money to see it all for once. But anyways, I think that's everything. Oh my lord, everyone's screaming now. Yay, that's wonderful. Um, but what else is there to talk about? Not much. I mean, AEW is AEW. New Japan finally, now that they actually have, fans can't do anything yet other than clap, but there's more fans, and it's making a difference. It actually looks better, and the New Japan Cup has actually, a lot of those matches have been really good. So it's just like, I mean, you still have the House of Torture garbage, which sucks, but it is what it is. But it'll be interesting, and like I said, I hate saying it, but right now, as we speak, I would probably pick going to the Impact show over the ROH show, only because we don't know what's on the ROH show. Now, that ROH show could, Tony Khan could load that thing up, and I'd be like, there's no way I'd go to that Impact show over this, because the thing with the Impact show is I don't have faith that it's going to be booked well, because Impact should do much better than it does, but they don't book it well. The booking gets in the way, which is crazy, but that's what happens. So, what you gonna do? Anyways, I think that's it. That's all I wanted to come on here and say. So, with that, I'm out. Have a good one. Later.